Hello and welcome to the Plate Spinning Academy podcast, hosted by me, Nic Davies, a productivity mentor and multi-passionate entrepreneur. I know what it feels like when you want to do all of the projects all at the same time, with never enough time and energy to do it all. I'm a passionate creative who's found my almost perfect blend of business and life that keeps my head motivated, my body energised and my heart happy. I'll be talking about all things to do with organisation, rotas, goal setting, systems and structures, and strategies for business and life together, all combined with a healthy dose of accountability and motivation to help you on your journey. It's time for you to find your tailored recipe for accomplishment and contentment. Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be talking all about housework rotas and systems and all of those things and all of those boring bits of running a home that we don't really want to do. So if I told you that I had a housework rota for the entire year, how would you feel about that? Would you be shocked? Would you be, oh, Nic, you must love housework? Would you be surprised? Or would you be interested? Would you be interested in why I've got it for the year? I've actually taken inspiration for this from a role that I used to have when I worked for the fire service. And if you imagine a fire appliance turning up to a job and the equipment wasn't working, we'd be in trouble, right, wouldn't we? So they had what was called standard tests. And it was, it'll be online now. This was many, many years ago, but there were big folders on the shelf. And every single piece of equipment, every single item that they had a code, had a name, had a procedure for checking it or maintaining it, and it had a date and a frequency of how often that particular piece of equipment needed to be tested to make sure that it was working. So some of these were tested daily, some were tested weekly, some were tested fortnightly, and monthly, every 3 months, every 6 months, and every year, that kind of thing. A bit like you do, with your MOT for your car. You get your car MOT'd on an annual basis. You get it serviced on a regular basis. We need to make sure that these things are working when we need them to work. So really, really important that the fire service equipment was kept up to date and there was somebody would sign to say, yes, I have checked it and I accept responsibility for checking it. So it got me thinking, and this was like a few years after I'd ceased employment there. And when life became really busy for me and I definitely had to put a rota into place at home, how would I do this? So from a visual perspective, you'd kind of look around and think, well, what needs doing? But you'd then have to rely on actually seeing it. And as we know, not everybody in the house sees those jobs that need to be done. So I thought about, well, it goes further than just doing the general housework on a daily basis. What about maintaining the whole house? How do we remember the last time that we checked the drains? How do we remember the last time that we cleaned the windows? That sort of thing. And then I thought, well, surely, there's a way of doing this. And I then remembered back to the standard tests and thought, can I apply this to, running a home? And the answer is yes, you can. And what I did was I came up with a 5-step plan for how to do this. I've tried it out myself. It works. Do I stick to it all the time? No, of course I don't. I'm human. And it's not really as important as, having fire service equipment ready. But what it does do is it helps me to keep on top of things at home. And the way that I've structured it, it means that things don't get left too long. Those really disgusting jobs that you forget to do, like cleaning the top of the kitchen cupboards or cleaning the skirting boards, or, those places that we don't see. Even so much as down to, how often does the freezer need defrosting? There's lots and lots of things to take into account when you're running a home and maintaining a home. Whether you're running a business or not, this is really, really helpful for you. So it's a really simple plan on the top of things, but there is a little bit more detail to it. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that people just go, you know what, that sounds like too much like hard work today, and I'm not going to bother doing it. And what I've found is that if we just spend that little bit of time at the beginning planning, we're going to recoup that time back time and time again, because what it's going to do, it's going to give us headspace back. It means we're not having to think about it on a daily basis. If you've got a housework rota in place there that you just refer to on a daily basis and go, okay, what's on the rota for today? You know that even if you were to skip something one day because, life was just lifing and everything went wrong, you can pick it up next time. So there's no catching up with this either. You just kind of, if you miss a day, it's okay, leave it, and you just pick it up the next time it's on the rota. So it does take a little bit of time to do. And for me, I would rather have a plan in place than have no plan at all. It's having that structure that at least if you haven't got the headspace to think about planning anything on the day or like I said, when life just gets so chaotic, you can't think straight. If you've already done the work in advance, you're okay. So step one would be basically to go around the house and make a list of all the tasks in your home that that need doing. Sounds quite simple, doesn't it? And it is. It's just a little time consuming, that's all. What I did was I grabbed myself a clipboard, piece of paper, pen, and for each room in the house, I started in one corner and I went around the room clockwise visually, and I wrote down all of the cleaning and the housework tasks that needed to be done. It was quite time consuming, but by the end of it, I had a comprehensive list. And some of these jobs are, like I said before, the jobs that you just don't think about on a daily basis, but they definitely need doing, because if you don't maintain stuff, it is ultimately going to cost you more money in the long run. So I wouldn't recommend doing all of this in one go. Set aside maybe half an hour every couple of days to just go, all right, I'm going to do one room today. I'm going to write down all the tasks in that room that need doing. But eventually you'll get to a point where you've done the entire house, including your hall, stairs and landing, kitchen, dining room, lounge, bedrooms, bathrooms. I mean, you can do outside as well. You've got the garden as well, or any outside space that you have. But if you just want to focus on the inside now, that's absolutely fine. So step one, you've got all the tasks done, written down, everything that needs to be done at whatever point. So then we look at it and go, okay, look at all these tasks individually. How long do these tasks take to complete? Now, there needs to be a little bit of flexibility in this, because you might not know how long it takes to do something, or it might take longer depending on how tired you are or what's going on. I know sometimes I really struggle to do housework when I've got people under my feet. So I wait till everybody's gone out. But then I also complain that they're not helping me. So, nobody can win really, can they? But looking at how long these jobs take to do, and I would round it up and down to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, that sort of thing. I think if any jobs take more than half an hour, maybe split them down even more into some subtasks. But the main thing is to be realistic with your timings. Like I said, your energy levels will fluctuate depending on possibly the time of the month, or whether it's morning or evening or anything. There's so many different variations. But you will be the best person to gauge this for yourselves. So if you're unsure, always try and overestimate a task. So We do this because we don't want to be cramming too much into our time. So now we've got our list, we've got how long each task takes to do. Now we need to decide how often do we want to do that task. So, some household tasks are going to need doing on a daily basis. Some are going to need doing every couple of days. Maybe it's a weekly task. Maybe it's every 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And what I try and do is double the number. So I go from 1 week to 2 week. And I always use 4 weeks rather than a month, because then that goes to 6 weeks and 8 weeks and 12 weeks, which is 3 months? So if something needs doing every 3 months, I put it on a 12-week rota rather than a 3-month rota. It just works better when you actually put all of this together rather than using the actual calendar months. The weeks are so much better to work with. So this is entirely up to you. How often do you want to do these tasks? And this is what I've struggled with when I've Googled, give me a housework rota. So people go online and look for a housework rota, and there's lots and lots of them available. And what if that doesn't fit with your schedule? What if you don't want to do a certain job every single day? What if you only want to do that every few days? Or what if you just don't agree with how often somebody cleans the windows or washes the floor? Because this is your tailored housework rota. This is completely down to you, and it is nobody else's business how often you clean your home. I've seen a lot of shaming online, and I'm not happy with it at all. As long as you are happy and safe with the frequency of your tasks that you're doing, that is absolutely fine. It may be that you want to clean things more frequently and you just can't. You're exhausted. As business owners, or if you've got a full-time job, or you've got kids and you've got such a busy household, we can't possibly expect to then be living in a clean, pristine house. So we just do what we can do. Look at how often you want to do these jobs. And again, this is a longer term project for you to do. I wouldn't recommend you do it all in one go. Certainly not. But this is something you can implement over a period of weeks or months, or whatever pace you want to do it at. And every little increase in this rota is worth it for you. So just remember, this needs to work around you. It needs to work around your needs, your energy, and your household dynamics. So you've got your list of tasks. You've got how long they're going to take, and you've got how often you want to do them. The next aspect to it is deciding how much time you want to do or are willing to spend on doing these tasks every day. Whether that's I'm happy to spend an hour a day on them, or I'm happy to spend 3 hours a week on them, or a month, or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's nobody listening that wants to be cleaning all day, every day. We've got other stuff to do, yeah? So look at putting yourself some daily time limits in, depending on your comfort levels, whether that's physical or emotional. Look at your time scale, consider your other commitments for each day of the week, and maybe kind of sketch out or jot down what your week could potentially look like if you are incorporating this housework rota in. And think about my peak times for housework are probably about 9 o'clock in the morning after the school run, and just before I kind of settle down to do some work for the day. So I've got about an hour there. And then maybe after 4 or 5 o'clock, I may have an hour then. So I could be looking at 1.5 to 2 hours a day on a good day. I have to say, on a bad day, there is nothing getting done, and I am absolutely okay with that. So we've got all of these things put together. So like I said, you know what your tasks are, you know how often you want to do them, how long they're going to take. You want to know how much time you've got on a daily or weekly basis to do all these. And once you've got all these things put together, you can then create your bespoke rota. It's a little bit tricky to get your head around, but once you've got everything mapped out on paper, it'll be easy for you to put it together. I've actually put mine into Excel spreadsheets, or you could use Google Sheets. I just find that visual kind of thing on the screen is so much easier for me to use and to read, and I've got it all color coded, and I am in the process of trying to bundle it up for other people to use, but I need to make sure that it is definitely foolproof before I do that. So that is something for the future. But even if you were to just implement this on a very small scale basis, you might not want to do it for the year. You might just want to go, for the next 2 weeks, I'm just going to map out what tasks that I'm going to do, and I'm going to see how I go. And that's absolutely okay. I know it sounds a little bit overwhelming to have an entire housework rota for the whole year, but actually all we're doing, we are just replicating. We're just replicating what we've just put down on paper, and then we just replicate it weekly, fortnightly, 4 weekly, 8 weekly, 12 weekly, 6 monthly, and annually. And that is absolutely it. I know this sounds a little bit overwhelming, so I've actually got a little free download that you can get. I'll pop the link in the show notes, and that is just a little printout which will help guide you through everything that I've talked about today. And why don't you give it a go? I would love to hear how you get on with it. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Come and find me on socials. I've got a couple of free groups you can find on my profile that you are welcome to join. I'd love to hear more about what you'd like me to talk about on the podcast, and I would welcome your ideas for future episodes.